You likely have found yourself in this situation so many times. You make yourself something to eat and you sit down and you turn on the television and you watch a show or you watch a movie. But as you've started to wonder about your relationship with food and wonder how to heal your relationship with food, you're starting to ask yourself questions. Is this bad that I'm eating TV while I'm eating? Am I still able to pay attention to food and pay attention to my body while I'm eating? Should I be having zero distractions while I'm eating? And that's exactly what we're going to be diving into today so that you can get a better sense of whether or not TV is something that is helpful, harmful, or something in between for you.
You definitely want to take a listen to this.
If I have to read another article that talks about how you can't mindfully eat while watching TV, I might lose it. And you might be able to relate to this. It seems like everywhere you look these days, there are articles and social media posts about how mindful eating equates to chewing a certain amount of bites of food. It relates to turning off everything that distracts you. And I think what's missed is the nuance here and really understanding for yourself what would be most helpful when it comes to food. But before we dive into things, I want to introduce myself. My name is Catherine Metzelar. I'm a certified intuitive eating counselor, registered dietitian, here to help you create peace with food and your body so that all of this takes up less headspace and you can live a more abundant life. So is it bad for you to eat while you're watching TV or a show or Netflix or other things? I think the question is it really depends. But before we dive into the ways in which it depends and how you can get an answer to that, I want you to know first and foremost that there is no good or bad way of eating, and likewise, you are not a good or bad person when it comes to the kinds of food that you eat. In fact, you can't tell a single thing about someone, their goodness or their badness or everything in between based on what they're eating. So no matter what the answer to this question is, you eating, for example, while you're watching television, doesn't mean that you're doing something bad. It just means that there might be something going on that can be curious for you to pay attention to and experiment with so that you could get a better sense of maybe television isn't so helpful for you to watch, or maybe it's totally okay and it's actually really helpful for you. There are so many networks of television and so many things at our fingertips that are really exciting and joyful to watch. Netflix, Hulu, you name it, the list can go on. And it sometimes feels good and nice to be able to sit down and eat while you watch a show. But here's the thing, it can be incredibly distracting. And distraction, sometimes with intentionality, can be a helpful tool that we use when we're healing our relationship to food. And sometimes it cannot be so helpful. So let's talk about the ways in which television and watching TV could not be so helpful for you. If you're watching TV while you're eating, this can be a huge distraction because you are focusing on the TV, what's going on in the show or the movie, and you're not focusing necessarily on what you're eating and how it's feeling in your body. This can distract you from understanding the nuances of both hunger and fullness, how hunger changes when you start eating, how it shifts into fullness, how to know when to stop. These are all skills that we most certainly develop over time that often require that we have less distraction, in this case from TV and movies, so that we can begin to develop and continue to practice creating a more intuitive relationship with our body. When we've got distractions, we're often left feeling kind of confused. And sometimes there's not even an awareness of the fact that we've eaten and we're done feeling dissatisfied, feeling confused, maybe feeling overly full or feeling kind of full, but we're not really sure if we've eaten enough. And so having that distraction, if this is the case for you, often isn't so helpful because it disconnects you from your body and the experience that you're having with food. The other piece of this too is that for a lot of people that have a difficult relationship with food or they're healing from chronic dieting or disordered eating, is that there are a lot of feelings that come up while we're eating. It could be feelings related to discomfort, feelings related to other things that are arising for you in your life. And there's often a desire to want to disconnect from those feelings, to completely not feel them, to maybe numb out from them. And this can show up in the form of food, seeking and wanting to numb out from food, but can also show up as it relates to TV. I don't want to feel anything in my body and be with it while I'm eating, and so I want to distract myself from it. And look, there is nothing wrong with you doing that with intentionality of saying, you know, this is feeling too overwhelming for me today, and so I'm gonna watch some TV or I'm gonna watch a movie, and that is gonna help me get through this moment, and it might help me to eat. The other side of that though is that if we're constantly avoiding feeling, and or if we're not even aware that that's what we're doing, it can just perpetuate the cycle of being completely disconnected, again, from our body and from our eating experience. Mindful eating, I believe, is a really important part of healing our relationship with food, but because diet culture has really usurped this term and taken it for itself, it has turned into this mindful eating to lose weight, when in fact, mindful eating has nothing to do with changing our body shape and size. Really, mindful eating, I like to think about it as the intentional awareness to the present moment. That's it. Nothing you need to control or do or change. It's simply inviting a sense of curiosity into your own experience with eating. And that is difficult to do while you're watching TV or watching a movie, for most people, especially in the beginning. So at this point, if you're thinking, I don't know what's best for me, is it helpful for me to watch TV? Is it helpful for me to not watch TV? You might be wondering, how do I sort through this? I want to offer you something to try that will help you to get a better sense for whether or not it could be helpful to take a break from watching TV, or if you need to do nothing and there's nothing that you need to change. So here's what I want you to try. For a couple of days, 1 to 2 days, I want you to try to not watch TV or a movie while you're eating. This doesn't mean that you can't play music or do other things that feel helpful and soothing for you at mealtime, but just try to experiment with not watching TV or a movie while you're eating. And you can even bring a notepad. This is something that I would suggest. Bring a notepad with you to the table so that you don't have to bring your phone, and just write down anything that comes up for you. Do you have any feelings? Do you feel discomfort, boredom, fear? Does it feel intolerable to sit there? All of these things you get to observe so that you've got more information about what the experience is for you when you're not watching TV, and why you likely have been avoiding or not wanting to sit down and have your meal. Now, I want you to do the same thing for a couple days while watching TV, but I want you, here's a big differentiator, I want you to be aware of this experiment. So I want you to go into the experience of watching TV while you're eating saying, I'm gonna notice what happens and what my experience is like while I'm eating. And you can also keep a notepad next to you and just write down things. Okay, I'm noticing that it's hard for me to concentrate on the food, or actually this is totally fine and I'm not having a hard time noticing how my fullness is changing, or okay, I'm noticing that this show is making me feel pretty anxious. I wasn't anxious before I started eating this meal, and I wonder if that's a part of what's going on. You just get to get curious about what is happening so that you can make an informed decision about what would be helpful for you at meal times. Once you're done with this experiment, you will be able to know what might work best for you. There is no right answer here. It is not like you are not eating mindfully if you're watching television, or you are eating mindfully if you're sitting at the table with no distractions at all. I think there's room for all of it. And sometimes watching TV while we're eating feels really good and really helpful and helps us to continue to nourish ourselves consistently and regularly. It helps to share that time and experience with somebody else, which can also be really helpful. And there are many other times in which the TV and a movie can feel incredibly distracting, and we need a break from it. We need to experience what it's like to eat separate from that. But that doesn't mean that you need to do it all alone. I often suggest that people, and in this case you can do it yourself, maybe FaceTime somebody while they're eating, or put on some music, or get some essential oils that are really nice smelling while you're eating. You can still make the experience as best as you can joyful, pleasurable while you're eating, if you're not watching TV and a movie. So in summary, you are not a good or bad person, and you are not doing a good or bad thing by watching TV while you're eating. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not eating mindfully if you are watching TV and or a movie while you're eating. And if you're working towards healing your relationship with food, these are things that you want to get curious about. Am I feeling distracted while I watch TV and a movie? And is there a better option for me? Can I experiment with noticing both situations and see, based on the information that you gather, what might work best for you? So let me know in the comments, have you experienced this dilemma of not knowing if watching TV is okay while you eat? Have you tried to not watch TV and found that was really difficult? I'd love to know. Like this video, share it with other people in your life, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you back here next week.